Welcome to the Build with Boundaries podcast. My name is Manaz, and this podcast is for mums who want to carve out time so that you can work in ways that work for you, your life, your family, and of course, your business. Together, we will discover why you are not prioritizing your business and the actions that you can take so you can live an intentional, productive, and fulfilled life without mum guilt. So let's dive in to today's episode. So Christine is a marketing and creative startup coach, founder of the Creative Startup Academy, author of multiple books, public speaker, podcaster, and workshop facilitator. She has worked in marketing and advertising for more than 12 years before she decided to start her own business supporting startups. With her hands-on approach, she's helped hundreds of individuals validate their business idea and create a successful startup, as well as working with small businesses, supporting them getting clarity and marketing their business. She sees entrepreneurship as a way of life and loves the passion that comes from working in that industry. So let's welcome Christine Michaelis. So welcome, Christine, from the Creative Startup Academy. I'm so excited to have you on. And today we're talking about effortless strategies for mum entrepreneurs as far as their marketing goes. So it's such a great topic. I'd love you to just say a quick hello and tell us who you are and what you do.
Yes, hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to share with you, hopefully, valuable insights and practical things that people can do and take away and be less scared about this marketing that everyone needs to do if you're an entrepreneur, because if you don't tell people that you exist, they won't buy from you. So my name is Christine Michaelis, and I'm the founder of the Creative Startup Academy, where I support entrepreneurs in their first 3 years. Starting out with their marketing activities, focusing on low and no cost marketing actually, and with creating a work-life balance that they deserve, because a lot of entrepreneurs are missing that, I think, including myself. I was missing that. No, I'm not. But yeah, so that's me in a nutshell.
Oh, that's amazing. Fabulous. It's so important to get the marketing help in those early days, isn't it? Because, we feel like we have to start with where we are. And, if you can't pay for things, we have to be making them work organically first.
Yes,
So this is such a great topic to talk about. So tell me, how did your journey begin here? Because how did you get to doing what you are doing today?
Yes. Okay, I was born. No, let's not start there, but it actually goes quite back a lot. But because after school, I did like 3 years of internships to find out what I didn't want to do, which I think is a luxury that not a lot of people have. And I was lucky enough to be able to do that. And then I discovered this marketing world. And started working. I did the apprenticeship in marketing and advertising and started working in that industry. And I thought, this is something I want to do for the rest of my life. But more than a decade working in it, it wasn't. I then started to think, it's not really what I want anymore in life. And it wasn't the agency I was working in. I loved my colleagues. I loved the job and the clients I was working with. But it wasn't fulfilling enough for me, because I was doing for the clients apps, brochures, websites, things like that. And it's all super important and really helps me with everything that I'm doing now, obviously, and with the people I work with now. But yeah, it wasn't giving me that fulfillment that I wanted in life. So I did coaching and neurolinguistic training, neurolinguistic programming training, and just it started from there. I never wanted my own business, never wanted to start anything by myself, because I thought, God, it's going to be too exhausting. I need to think about getting clients, and I need to get all these new skills, and I need to think about accounting, which is my pet peeve, which I hate, and all of that. And nonetheless, I started out and I absolutely loved it, because right from the beginning, really, I started working with entrepreneurs, and also that just happened. The niche found me. I absolutely loved it, because everyone just loves so much what they do, and they want to have an impact on their lives and on other people's lives, probably, and sometimes even want to make the world a better place. So that really keeps me going and motivated. And yeah, I do that now for 11 years, and it all has morphed into different things and different products and different ways of working, that it never became boring or anything like that, because I constantly changed and adapted and created new things and worked with so many lovely people from all around the world. That's basically how it happened, to give you a long story short.
Oh, I love that. What a great story there. I love how you said, like, there was something missing and you weren't really fulfilled with what you were doing. And it's so important, isn't it, to get that right, because we can build a business on anything, but when we build it on something that we deeply, deeply desire, that's when it's transformational, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic. So you mentioned that the niche found you. So tell me more. I would love to know, like, what do you mean, and what actually happened with you? What was
Yeah.
going on, and how did you just one day realize that this was the niche that you were serving?
Yes, I guess that was it. Basically, I did the coaching training, and then I said, oh, let's call myself life coach, because I'm not saying this is something wrong or anything. There's amazing life coaches out there helping so many people. But if you're not sure which niche you want to serve, then maybe you go a bit broader at the beginning. And I put up like a one-page website, and I started going to networking events. And at these networking events, there were a lot of entrepreneurs, of course, and business owners, small business owners. And we started talking, and they started asking me questions, and apparently they liked the advice I was giving, or maybe some input, and I was able to connect them to something else, or giving some ideas for new things. And everyone just started loving that. And then all of a sudden some people said, oh, I would love to work with you on that. And I was like, okay, let's do that. And then I started working with some solopreneurs that have now maybe also big companies, because they build up everything. Not saying that that was my input. However, obviously I was there at the beginning of the journey, and saw them developing into other things, which is lovely, because that's the way they wanted to go. Some people also want to stay a solopreneur, which is also fine and lovely. And also me, I have a company, but it's me in that company, and I do outsource a lot of things, but I don't really have that ambition to grow into a massive company and employ hundreds of people or something. It's just not my ambition. I'm making an impact on the people I'm working with already, and this is satisfying, really. But yeah, that's really how it happened. So they just started working with me, and I liked it, and I was, let's go with that for now. Everyone says you need to niche down. Let's go with that. And then I stuck with it and never changed it, really. I mean, it then get defined and refined, and then you see, and you define basically your ideal client. This is a person that keeps working with me and that I really enjoy working with. And that's how it all developed from there.
Yeah, fantastic. So, what do you think then is the biggest sort of pain points, if you like, in terms of, because marketing can feel so difficult, and especially in the beginning when it feels like, it's like another thing that you have to do. I mean, right at the very beginning, we don't realize often exactly what entrepreneurship involves. And I think you've touched on that as well, that, you don't even want to be an entrepreneur. And that makes total sense. Like, if you actually knew everything it entailed, probably most of us would not have gone down that route because, right? But
Very, very good
what do you
point.
find is the common things that you come across with what people are thinking about marketing?
Yeah, I think it's that scary word and field, and it also has maybe a negative connotation as well. So if we look at it from different point of view, so from the entrepreneur's point of view, like we mentioned, you need to all of a sudden understand pretty much everything in business. At least understand, even if you outsource something, you need to understand accounting. You
Yeah.
need to understand how marketing works. You need to understand how sales work. You need to maybe understand how a website is built, because even if you want to outsource something, if you don't know the basics, you will not find the right person, because you don't even know if they know what they're talking about. So And also every entrepreneur I work with, we're all like these sponges, also me. They take in all the information. We attend every free webinar that we can get our hands on and sign up to all these wonderful newsletters that we never read. And we have all this information and never take action, but think, oh, we're going to need that some time. And we probably do. And there's nothing wrong with that. And it will always be that way. And I went through that. However, that can be then overwhelming. And there's topics that you can, like accounting, for example, you can do like a webinar about it. You can talk to an accountant about it. You maybe even do a quick online course to get the basics done and know what you're actually doing. And then that's that. That doesn't mean that you understand everything for tax reasons and things like that. But at least, okay, I understand this and I can handle it, my expenses and my income, more or less. And I understand some stuff there. Marketing, however, is this ever-evolving thing that has so much more to it. And it needs to adjust to yourself, to the clients, and to everything that's happening in the world. And that can be really difficult and overwhelming to understand. And it's also a never-ending journey. So accounting you learn once, let's say, unless there's a tax change, but for this you would always probably go to an accountant anyway. But there it's constantly evolving. There's constantly new marketing things you can do, new apps that are coming out, new portals, new things, and social media or not social media, offline, online, all these things, that this can be very off-putting and too overwhelming. And even if you try to understand, you might give up, and then but you have to do it because you cannot run a business without marketing activities. And we can go into this reframing marketing in a moment as well, actually, what it actually is. But I think that's the main challenge, that people are so afraid of it that they don't have a structured way for it, and they don't plan anything, and they just try everything a bit, but not really properly, without even knowing what the results should be. Oh, I need to be on Facebook. Okay, let's go on Facebook. But without a strategy, without understanding what you actually want from it, and without measuring results.
Yeah.
And this is a problem. And this is why also people waste so much time, but also so much money even. And we're not talking about thousands and thousands of pounds, dollars, euros, whatever. Even if you, let's say, oh, how often, even me with a marketing background at the beginning, I said, oh, let's boost this post on Facebook because that's what it's suggested, without knowing properly how it works, and not even knowing what I want from it. Just like, oh, okay, I put in 10 euros, 10 pound, and then, but that adds up as well. So you're wasting that if you don't have a strategy in place.
Totally. I love that, how you explained that, because I think not having a strategy is almost like, trying to complete the jigsaw without actually having all the pieces there, and just doing something really random, but not having a plan of where you're heading. And the strategy can really help us to understand, well, what is the whole point of this? What am I trying to do? And how can I achieve that? And what's the most effective way that you can use your time? Because everybody's marketing in some shape or form, but doing it effectively and doing it something that's actually going to resonate with the people you want to draw in versus just posting, there's a big difference. And I think we all get hooked up, especially in the beginning, into this whole, like, we have to just post and we just have to be visible. And as soon as we're posting, then the people will just see us magically and that will be it. Everything will be happy. But it doesn't work like that, does it? We have to sort of take those steps and build our marketing up. So what would you say then, to sort of reframe that and how people should be looking at marketing then? Because we actually have a choice here. We can feel very much overwhelmed by it, or we can feel like it's part of what we do and we get to choose how we do that, and feel more empowered about how we show up in our marketing.
Yeah, and also one thing I forgot to mention, but just mentioned at the beginning, which comes also back to that reframing, is that negative connotation of marketing, of being pushy, and the fear of missing out, and all these timers, and it costs usually 20,000 and now you just pay 50, which is also a very American way, let's say, to market things. And they do work for a specific target audience, and it all depends on what you want to sell and things. And from a psychological point of view, that all works. But the question is, how can we make it in a way so it becomes effortless for us, authentic for us, and we actually enjoy marketing? So that's one thing that we discussed today as well. With regards to the reframing, one thing is really important to understand. Marketing is not sales, because marketing is telling people about what you do and that you exist. And sales is then turning these people that hear about it into pressing a button and pay for something that you're doing.
Yeah.
So we need to separate these two things, and these are also two different skills. And that's why you have sales experts, and that's why you have marketing experts, and that's why they're not all at once, or maybe they learned both and are good at both. But that's the first thing to understand. And second thing is really, like I said, marketing is telling people about what you do and why you're doing it. And this way, people will understand, and in an understandable way, of course, concise way, and in a consistent way. And that means that you basically just have to tell people why you started this and what you're doing. And if they can hear, see, read your passion that comes through with that, and understand actually what you're doing. And that's all that it is. That is marketing. And that means every touch point that someone has with you and your company, it is a marketing activity. If they meet you online at a networking event, if they go on your website, if they read something about you, if they listen to a podcast that you were guest on, all of that is marketing, because everywhere where people hear about you or get in touch with you is already like a little marketing activity, and need to be consistent also in what you're communicating there and your brand and things like that. But yeah. So that's basically reframing it. Tell people what you do. That's it. That's marketing.
Totally, yeah. And like talk to them in such an authentic way that they get to hear that real person, because again, it's like people buy from people, isn't it? And our marketing is helping them to recognize who we are and what we do. Like, just like you said, what is it that we do? But we can just often struggle with that. So can you give some advice on or tips, share some tips on what somebody could do? Because if they're not feeling like it's effortless just now, what are the three things that they could do?
Yes, of course. So I think one thing that you just mentioned is the authenticity. And everything that you do in business will not everything will be fun. Let's be also realistic here. Of course, you can try to make things more fun and more effortless. Okay, let's like we use the word effortless here because it's not necessarily the same thing, effortless and fun. However, things would be more fun if they're effortless. So being more effortless for you as an entrepreneur is really finding out who you are and being confident enough to show up the way you are and talking the way you are. So defining your tone of voice, what kind of words are you actually using in your marketing activities? What kind of words don't you use? So that comes now back down to consistency. And we're not talking too much about building a brand or personal brand here in this case as well, because if we're solopreneurs, it's about personal branding, but it's about understanding who you are, what you feel comfortable with, and go with that first. Yeah, because I know everyone says that magic is happening outside of your comfort zone. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't get outside of your comfort zone, because it's very important to discover new things, to learn new things, and to push yourself a bit, because something that was uncomfortable will become comfortable after a while. However, starting with knowing yourself, knowing what you stand for, your values, what you don't want is as important as the things that you do want. And also saying no to people, okay, coming down to boundaries. And we talk about this obviously as well. And being consistent with communicating it in every step, every touch point that someone has there. So these, just like to start thinking about things, but it is being consistent, being flexible with things, and not doing everything at once as well. Because again, we don't have to do all at once. Start with something that you're comfortable with and get to know the tool, the marketing activity, because we're not only talking about social media, because marketing is not social media. Marketing, like I said, is every touch point. Be comfortable with that, master it, and do it really well. And that way it will become effortless, because you will get into a workflow and into a flow of understanding how things work, and you will have a process set up, and all of a sudden maybe you have a tool that automizes some things there as well. So even if we're talking about email marketing, you have to get your head around, okay, how do I write good email subject lines so that people actually open them, and what should be the content of my newsletter? So let's talk about the newsletter specifically here. Because you might want to get people on your email list, because people buy from people, like you said, and they want to get to know you. And they want to understand that you know what you're talking about. And I'm not saying that you have to give everything away for free, but you have to prove to people that you know what you're talking about, and you need to resonate with certain values that people have. And the newsletter is a good way of doing that. So if we're talking about the newsletter, you need to get your head around how to write the thing. So copywriting, you need to get your head around the technical part behind it. So where do you host actually all those emails? Is it like an email program that you're using? How can you automate things as much as possible? How often should you put out a newsletter? Because again, you should be consistent with that. You need to tell people what they can expect from that newsletter, and then also deliver, even over deliver things. So if you say, I want to do a newsletter, and I want to be on LinkedIn, and I need to create a website, and I need to be on Twitter, which is now called X at the moment, who knows for how long, and I have to do flyers, and I have to do free webinars for people to sign up, and I have to do this. Is all too much. Yeah. You also have to run a business, and you have to create product. So start with a newsletter, for example, get that all done, set that up, get into a flow, understand how it works, and then it will become effortless, because you think, oh, I know now how this works. I don't have to get my head around it. But if you have to understand all of this, all of a sudden, how does it actually work? You will not do all of it very well. Yeah. Focus on one thing, do it well, master it so it becomes effortless, and then move on maybe to the next thing. You can add on one by one. That would be the first thing.
Yeah, because I mean, it's not until we apply it and we take that action that we start learning. It's almost like there's another learning curve that begins, because the learning of what we need to do is one thing, and then applying our own business mind to, like, well, what does that mean for our business, and how can I implement it that's appropriate for me? Because we don't just take strategies from somebody else, we have to create and develop our own and nurture our own, and like we've been talking about today, it's really important to evolve, and that's going to come really authentically to us when we realize what's working, what's not working. And I think that's really important what you've just said there about, you know, focusing in on the areas that you want to be consistent at, because otherwise it feels like, you know, you're trying to do everything and you really are not managing to do anything very well, and you will certainly not be consistent for as long as you want to be, because something will fall down, it will just get too much, so much pressure. So yeah, that's really good tips there. I think it's
one thing that you just mentioned is really so important. You have to think about what you actually want to get out of it. Test things and change it around as well. Don't think like, oh, I've set it up like this, so it needs to be like that. Yeah. Because maybe a weekly newsletter is too much, and you just need to have to send out once a month. You can play around with it, so be flexible, but know what you want to get out of that marketing activities. Set yourself some goals that you can measure afterwards, and then see if it worked. What did work, and how can you apply that to maybe other things that you will do in the future? What didn't work, and why maybe didn't it work? Because we don't always know why. Maybe something just does not work, and then be flexible with it. Maybe stop it, maybe change it. And that's really important, having that flexibility. But exactly what you said, what do you want to get out of it? And does it actually work? And if not, what can I do to change it? And then move on to the next thing, because exactly what you said, if we try to do everything at once, it will be too much. It's overwhelming. It's overwhelming. And just because a newsletter is just an example, just because I mentioned it now, it doesn't mean you have to have a newsletter. Not everyone has to have a newsletter. It's just a great way of engaging and having people's email addresses and things like that. But there's so many things that you can do out there. And marketing is a lot of times trial and error. So every marketing expert can tell you, oh, you have to do this and you have to do that. And I've done that as well. I work with agencies, digital agencies that created a lot of things for me, and I've put in a lot of money and got things done, and it still didn't work. So it wasn't even that I could say, oh, I didn't know what I was doing, but I had experts doing it, and they said, if you do it like this will be the result. But the result was never met, so I stopped it. And I said, it just does not work. And I've tried it for long enough as well, and it did not work. And that's okay as well. If something doesn't work, let it go.
It's all part of the learning. But I want to go back to you mentioned newsletter, but I think what I've come to realize too, especially, is that, you know, like I started off with a monthly newsletter, and at that point, even monthly felt like, oh my goodness, will I manage this? But I think the importance is that we have to start. You know, if we want to try something out, we can just do monthly. That monthly went to, you know, bi-monthly, then it went to weekly, and then it moves. Nobody who emails more than once a week has just suddenly arrived to that. They've had to work at it, and we just can't see how long it's taken them. So I think, you know, understanding that we're all on our own marketing journey. And like you said, I think that whole of evolution and noticing what's working and not working is like really key as well, because like you mentioned, stopping things, like we actually have the power to do that, but how often do we take that time out to say, well, actually, can I give myself permission to do this or to not do this? That's
coming back to that fear of missing out. Oh, if I don't do it, maybe one client doesn't read my email.
Yeah, I know. It's not going to make that much of a difference, is it? And I think we can often be caught up in that fear. So that's a really good, valuable point there. So I'd love for you to share, Christine, what does building your business with boundaries mean to you?
A very, very good question. And of course, I was thinking about it because that's what you're all about as well. I think first thing is that a lot of times people need to have something happen in their life, something negative, before they actually take a step back and say, right, I have to put up the boundaries. I think the best advice is to put up these boundaries before things happen, as a prevention kind of thing. And I think we actually talked about this now, coming back to my mind. And I think that's really important. Now, for me, it has to do, so also me, I had a bit of a shocking, let's say, health moment in my journey, and which made me reprioritize everything I did in life, because I was really working a lot. And it doesn't mean that I don't work a lot now, but it means I have clear boundaries. And what does that mean to me? That means I say no to things, so marketing activities. So one big example, and what I just touched on, is like I work with a digital agency where I also put money in paying them and paying, for example, for ads on Facebook and Instagram. Okay, we're very specific, and we put a lot of money in, and we did that for 9 months with different things and things like that, and it just did not work. And I understand also now why, probably because of the nature of what I do. It's okay. It's not like people sign up. It's not like a personal trainer sign up and I want to get in shape, so I have this 30-day challenge that I do there. It's more personal. People, you need to build that trust first before people buy. With everything that I do and that you do, probably, is people need to know you first. So it didn't work. And that meant I had to say, no, I'm not going to do that. Even though if the world tells you, if you do these advertisements, and if you just wait long enough and you put enough money in, it will work. It will not work. For me. For other people, it does work. So saying no also to people I don't want to work with. And that means people I don't want in my academy. So getting them out of my academy and ban them, basically. People I don't want to collaborate with. Suppliers I don't want to work with anymore. I just recently had something where I started working with someone and I said, you know what, we said at the beginning, we work together for as long as it's fun. It's not fun for me anymore. It's not what I you're not delivering on what I expected and missing every deadline and things like that. So I ended that working relationship. So saying no is one of the biggest things, and it can be also very difficult. The other thing is having strict working hours. That can be a very tricky one. So I'm separating my business life from my personal life very strictly. However, of course, maybe I am on the beach on my holiday and I had a great idea for something. I'm going to write that down to not forget that idea. But I will not get started on that idea whilst I'm on holiday. So it's not that I detach and say, I'm not an entrepreneur in my private life, because that's just who you are.
Yeah.
But separating these two things is very important. And then that also means for me having strict working hours. I work 9 to 5, which would never have been possible. I worked 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. At some point I said, I'm going to get my evenings back. And I stopped working in the evenings. And then I said, well, actually, I want my Sundays back as well. So I stopped working on Sundays. And then I stopped working on Saturdays. And all of that also happened because I've met my partner who has a job where he works Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. So, and to have obviously time for someone else, you can't work all the time. And I never thought this would be possible. You know, this, I don't have time for this, I don't have time for that. It is possible. It's just a matter of prioritizing things. And so having strict working hours is another thing. So saying no, separating your business from your personal life, having clear working hours, and get rid of people that drain your energy, because we all need a lot of energy. Also, non-entrepreneurs need a lot of energy in their jobs. I'm not saying, but if you're looking at moms, they even more. I'm not a mom, but if you have children to look after, my God, I can't even imagine how much more energy is needed for all of that. So looking after yourself and the children and stuff. But these would be my 3 things, 4/4.
It's always great to hear someone else's perspective on the boundaries, because sometimes boundaries can really feel constrictive and restrictive, and they're going to stop us from doing things, but really they don't. When we find our way, which is just what you've explained from your point of view, they help us to expand, they help us to do more, and we can protect ourselves, our energy, our time, all the things that are really important. So thank you so much for sharing that. I'd love to know, before we go, where can people find you, Christine? And do you have anything that you want to share with the listeners?
Yeah, people can find me. I'm mostly active on LinkedIn. And if you go to my website, creativestartupacademy.com, there you find all at the bottom in the footer all my links to all my social media. But yeah, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn if you like. That's where I'm most active. I'm also inviting my LinkedIn connections to have a call, because I like not an anonymous, just massive network, but I want to actually meet people and get to know them. And that's basically it. And if you go there on creativestartupacademy.com, you can also find everything that I do. I do have the academy, and I have also a free entry level that already gives a lot of value, hopefully, to people. So if they're thinking of getting some more support with all of that we talked about, then that would be the place to go.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Christine, for sharing your wisdom, and appreciate you being here. Stop going nuts trying to focus on multiple things and achieving nothing. Have you ever felt like the filling in a sandwich, squeezed, stressed, surrounded by pressure, unable to prioritize your business dreams? Now, if you feel overwhelmed and torn between building your business and caring for your loved ones, then your business dreams do not have to come last. I've put together an overwhelm-free weekly action plan for busy business mums. You are simply one action away from a whole new perspective. This is where it all begins to start creating a snowball effect. All you need to do is download my weekly action plan, and the link will be in the comments or the podcast description.